Hey everybody, let's look at security models today, specifically Bell-LaPadula and Biba. So it is one of those things that a lot of people have trouble learning when they're looking at CISSP, so if you're having trouble, you're in good company. But let's break it down and see if we can't make sense out of this. So Bell-LaPadula is dated from 1976, and Biba's model is from 1977. So the first set of questions that I usually get is why? Why are we looking at such ancient models? There's so much more that's newer that we could take a look at. First thing I have to say is be grateful they're just looking at some of these older models. It makes it a little bit easier from a learning perspective. You only have to look at a few of them to be able to get ready for CISSP. The second thing I have to say is that these are the core basic models. Bell-LaPadula looks at the core to confidentiality, and Biba looks at the core to integrity. And it is critical or essential or core to what we actually do today. So learning them is not a bad thing. Knowing Bell-LaPadula at the office and being able to say that name or say the name of their properties, maybe not so necessary. But comprehending the ideas, yeah, that's a good thing to actually know today. They are core ideas to confidentiality and integrity. All right, the next thing is when they wrote their documents, when they wrote their models, in the 1970s, they were dealing with a very different world networking-wise, computer, technology. It just doesn't look the way it does now, obviously. But what it did look like is a little bit more different than you could possibly remember unless you were actually there. So trying to connect the dots and understand what they were looking at is actually helpful in trying to understand what they were doing. So in the 1970s, we had mainframes. I tend to say servers just out of habit, so careful if that happens. But we had mainframes, huge, massive mainframes, and they would take up the size of a room, say pictures like this. So when you're looking at these massive mainframes and then looking at the computers we had on our desktops, 1976, we really didn't have a whole lot in the way of computers on somebody's desk that they were sitting at. You'd have to go to a certain room, access a certain terminal that would then access the mainframe. It wasn't something that you sat at your desk and type all day. It just wasn't that environment. But what the government and military was looking at doing is putting all their data into these mainframes. And coming from military or government background, you're going to have different classification levels. And it is the confidentiality of the data that is most important. It is the nature of governments. It is the nature of military. You have to keep the secrets. Careful with that. We'll have another talk on another video about that. But it's not that integrity and availability is not important. It's the focus is confidentiality. And that is the focus of Bell-LaPadula's model. So looking at that model, what we have to remember is this mainframe contains data from all these different classification levels. You've got secret, top secret, unclassified, or whatever the names are in whatever the country is. So when you've got multiple classification levels and they're inside of a single computer, we have to take care to make sure that only the right people can access the right data. Now, it's not just that we've got multiple levels of security in the mainframe. We also have multiple levels of clearances from the people that are accessing the data in the mainframe. So you need to remember that any clearance, any user cleared at any level, unclassified, secret, top secret, again, whatever the levels are, accessing the information in the mainframe, again, whatever classification levels they are, we need to make sure that they can only see what they're supposed to see, what they have a need to know. So we have to follow our policies and match clearances to classifications. All right, so let's do some drawing and take a look at this. Okay, so let's talk about Bell and LaPadula's model. So David Bell, Leonard LaPadula, they were working with the U.S. government, so I'm going to use kind of U.S. government clearances and classifications here. So the first one, unclassified, secret, top secret, are the names I'm using. And what I have to say about that is if you don't like them, change them. Change them to whatever you want them to be. When we're working with Bell and LaPadula's model, what's critical is that there is a layer above and below. So if I put somebody at this middle level, use Amy, first name that came to mind. If I've got Amy with a secret clearance, what's critical is that there's a layer above and there's a layer below. It's not critical what the names are. It's just a discussion of what should Amy be able to read and then what should Amy be able to write? That's the question of the day. If you're working on Bell-LaPadula, that is. All right, so most of this actually is going to be a history lesson. It's kind of, this is where we got our ideas. It's from this model. So the first thing is if we had a file on the server, I use kind of common terminology for today. But if there's a file on the mainframe and the file is classified unclassified, the question is, should we allow Amy, who has a secret clearance, to be able to read that file? And the answer is yes. I trust her with secrets. Therefore, I'm going to trust her with unclassified data because it's lower than the level that I've cleared her for. So that's good. Then they said, okay, well, what about if it's at the same level? What if there's a file that's classified secret? Should I allow Amy to read secret data? And the answer is yes. And most of you are going to say, well, if she has a need to know. But the truth is that Bell and LaPadula didn't think about that. They didn't write it down in their document. It's kind of why we have so many other models, is things just evolve over time and we realize that we missed something and we have to add, and we don't go back and rewrite the document, we create a new document. So the answer is yes. She has a secret clearance, therefore I'm going to allow her to see secret data. It's just I trust her. I trust her with secret data. There's no need to know. That's one of those practice questions that are out there. There's a lot of them. There's no need to know in this thing. The next question is, should I allow Amy, if there's a top secret data file on the mainframe, should I allow Amy to be able to read this data? And the answer is no. No. I've cleared her for secrets. I have not cleared her for anything above that. So anything above that, she can't see it. So the answer is no, she cannot read that. So you can read at your own level, and you can read at a lower level, but you cannot read at a higher level. Once Bell and LaPadula created that as an idea, they gave it a name, and this is called the simple security property. I remember it because it's simple. We're talking about read property. Read. Can you read it? That's simple. It's a question of how old are you for most people on the planet today, and we start learning at 2 years old, maybe 1, maybe 3, maybe 5, but at a very young age. So very simple. That's all it is, just a memory jogger. The next question, though, is what are we going to allow Amy to write? From a write perspective, you got to remember this is the 1970s. Write is to create brand new document. So should I allow Amy to create, and I use current language often, so should I allow Amy to open up something like Microsoft Word and have her type, and fill up a document that gets classified some way, somehow, as a secret document? The question isn't, should I allow Amy to write? Should I allow Amy, who has secrets in her head, and secrets may come out of her fingers, and they may end up in the document, and it gets classified some way, somehow, as secret? So secret, I don't know how it gets classified, but magically it's going to get classified. But if it's secrets in the document and there's secrets in the file and is classified secret, then hey, everything's great. No problem. Obviously the answer is yes. Otherwise, the next thing is, should I allow Amy to write, to create a new document, open up something like Microsoft Word, type, and fill up a document that gets classified some way, somehow as unclassified? You could say it's not classified. Okay, fine. But it's still at an unclassified level according to my picture. I don't care who classifies it. That's not the point of this model. The question is, should I allow Amy to create such a document that does get classified at a lower level? If she has secrets in her head and they come out of her fingers and they end up in the document, we would have a breach of confidentiality. And the core to Bell and LaPadula is we have to keep it confidential. If we can't keep it confidential, then it's not okay. So the answer is no, you cannot write to a lower level. Should I allow Amy to write to a higher level? So that last one and this one are the ones that usually throw people. It's the 1970s. The question is, should I allow Amy to write, type, fill up a document that gets classified some way, somehow? I don't know how. It's not part of this document. Should I allow Amy to create a document that gets classified as top secret? So a secret comes out of her fingers. Secret ends up in the document. Will I allow that to happen? And the answer is based on, do I have a confidentiality problem? If I have a confidentiality problem, then it's not okay. But if I have secrets and they're classified at a higher level, they're overclassified, I'm not going to have a breach of confidentiality. So the answer is actually yes, you can write to a higher level. She can never go back and read it, but she can write to a higher level. So that's good fun. So you can write at your own level or you could write to a higher level. Just doesn't match today's world, today's environment. It's not what we do. But we also have a lot of breaches today of confidentiality, and maybe we should go back and rethink this. So what we've got is writing at your own level or higher level. It needs a name, and it's called the star property. So sometimes star security property. The star security property is sometimes written with the word star, and sometimes it's just the icon for that, the character for a star. All right, so the critical thing to this is watch the flow of data. Data can go from a unclassified level to secret, and it can go from secret to top secret. We want to make sure that the flow of data always goes upward. We never want data to flow in a downward direction. If you do, you have a confidentiality problem, in which case that's not okay. So Bell-LaPadula said, no, you cannot write to a lower level. You cannot read from a higher level. You cannot write to a lower level. And that's the way it works. There is a third property, which is read and write. I don't draw out that picture. It's just the way that I draw the picture. People have different ways to do this. But in order to read and write, you have to have both characteristics. So in this chart, you must have both read and write in order to open and modify. And the only level that you're going to have that at is going to be your own level. So Amy can open a document and modify it. Therefore, she is going to have read and write capabilities, or read-write, the third property, which is called the strong star property. There you go. There's the basics to Bell-LaPadula. Okay, so let's talk about Biba. This was Ken Biba, or KJ Biba. This is 1977, so computers, they haven't really changed much. But Biba was definitely looking at things from a very different perspective. He was looking at things from an integrity perspective. So memory jogger, there's an I in his name for integrity. Funny how that works. And if you go back to Bell-LaPadula, there is no C for confidentiality, but there's no I in there either, so it's the I's. The I's have it. All right, so confidentiality. This one has a similar starting picture, except now we're talking about levels of accuracy, levels of integrity. So it's how correct is the data? Do we have the right values in there or do we not? So we've got low, middle, and high as our levels. A little bit different. This is usually, I think, where people get tripped up, is understanding that. If you can get that, then the picture makes sense, usually. All right, so what I use is you and your bank account as my example. So in your bank account, do you log in and check your bank account online? If you don't, who are you? All right, so if we log in and we check our bank account online, I'm just kidding, but if we log in, and since I'm in the States, I'll use $1. So if I log in and I check dollars. So say I went to the grocery store and I spent, $7.58 on something. I don't know what I bought for that, but it wasn't much. So if I look at the 7, but I don't care about the decimal places after that, then I'm going to call that a low level of accuracy. I only look at the money in front of the decimal place. If I'm at a middle level of accuracy, I spent $7.58. I log in, I check the 7 and the 5 and the 8. I'm going to check it down to the penny. Again, using dollars in American because I'm in the States. Otherwise, a high level of accuracy, not really what we're going to do when we check our bank accounts online, but a high level of accuracy, I would say that we've got dollars, and then I'm going 4 decimal places deep into it. So it's more like watching the stock market or stocks, bonds, trades, anything like that. And it can go 7 decimal places, 8 decimal places deep at times, if not further. All right, otherwise, so low level of accuracy is before the decimal place, middle level has 2 decimal places, and high has 4 decimal places. And I'm going to put somebody in here in the middle. And first name that comes to mind is Alicia. Why? Because it is. All right, so I've got Alicia. She's working at a middle level of accuracy, and she's an accountant. So that means that when she is looking at numbers, it has to have the money in front of the decimal place, but it also has to go 2 decimal places for her to be able to work with it inside of her systems to be able to have accurate data or have integrity to our data. All right, so again, we're going to look at things from a read and write perspective. So read, can she take a look at it? Write, can she newly create a document? Doesn't always work that way today. All right, but otherwise, this is going to be, again, some things that make sense and some things that don't. So again, a bit of a history lesson. All right, so if on the system there's a file and it says $7.58, because I just went to the grocery store, and she pulls it into her accounting system, and I'm working at a middle level of accuracy. So if I've got 2 decimal places, she's working at a middle level of accuracy. It has 2 decimal places when she takes a look at it. Are we going to allow her to read it? And the answer is yes. The way we're going to get to answers is, 1, did it change the information? 758 to 758, there's no change. So we don't go any further, and the answer is yes. What happens when we go further? So hold on. All right, so let's say I have a file on the server, and in that file I've got 187658. Are we going to allow Alicia to read that into her accounting software or not? So the first piece is it does have 4 decimal places, and she only works with 2. So if she did pull it in, not can she, if she did, what would it look like? What would happen? So 18.7, she only uses 2 decimal places, but it has a 5 in the third. So the question we have to answer first it's like a policy level question, is what are we going to do? So if we were to just chop the information off or round. So let's round. So then the question is, if we have a 5, what are we going to do? Are we going to round up or are we going to round down? So usually the answer is, let's round up. All right, so then if that's our answer, we've got a 5. So we're going to take the 6 and we're going to round it up. So 1877. And that's what it would look like if she pulled it in. The question is, can she? So the first question is, does the information change? It went from 187658 to 1877. The information changed. But the second question, did it change according to our policy? And it did change according to our policy. So yes, it changed, but it changed according to policy. So it is actually okay for her to pull that into her accounting software. You can read from a higher level. Now, would I ever allow her to write that to a higher level? So writing it to a higher level, she'd have 1877. We got 2 more decimal places. What do you do with those? And what we commonly do is we pad or fill it with zeros. So the question is that information accurate? And it's not. It should say 7658. It says 77 with made up filler junk information. So the answer is no, you can't write to a higher level. That messes it up. You're not going to have accuracy to your data. Can we allow her to write something to our own level? So let's take this 1877. Will we allow her to write it to her own level, create a brand new file based on the information that she's now pulled in? And if she did, it would write at 1877. There's no change to the data, so you can write to your own level. Now, would we ever allow her to write that to a lower level? She has 1877. We're writing to a lower level. We write 18... Oh, wait, I don't care about the decimal places, so I stop. Did it change the information? Yes. Did it change according to our policy? Okay, so wait. Hold on a minute. So I did something wrong. So if I write to a lower level, I had 7 as the next. I'm going to stop at the decimal place. So that means I actually have to round. So it wouldn't write as 18. You're right. I heard you. It's going to write at 19. It did change. But did it change according to our policy? And it did once I remembered the policy and changed it according to that. So the answer is yes, you can write data to a lower level. But now that we've written it to a lower level, would we ever allow her to pull that back into our accounting software? The answer is no, because it would pull in at 19. I got to pad it out again, so 00. We've got padding, filler, junk. We've got nothing in there that makes any sense. Information has changed. We can see it's actually gone around in a loop and it's changed from 1877 to 19. So the answer is no. You're not allowed to write data or read data from a lower level. So this actually goes in the opposite direction of Bell-LaPadula. Bell-LaPadula, it was critical to write data to a higher, you want to put the right to a higher level. We're pushing things up to a higher level. But here what we've got is we're reading in from a higher level and we're going to write down to a lower level. So data actually flows down and out. It goes down to a lower level. So once you pull data down to a lower level, you can't push it back up because you've lost a level of accuracy. You've lost a level of detail. It's just not okay. So this does get used. It gets used within banking systems, financial systems. This is the basics to how you manage money. So we could use this with other things like GPS, where we're talking about latitude and longitude and doing hours, minutes, seconds, and going down deeper into the information. That's another place that BIBA could be used. Otherwise, that's the basic to BIBA. Oops, except for the names. So he did, I think, see the Bell-LaPadula model because he did call the read property simple and the write property star. Sometimes it's written as star, sometimes just the asterisk. But he added the word integrity to differentiate. So it's the simple integrity property or the star integrity property. So if it has read or it has simple, that means it's going to be read. If it has star, that means it's going to be write. And then if you add the word integrity, then you're going to get to, however you spell that. When you add the word integrity, you get to BIBA's model. And if it's not there, then it's Bell-LaPadula's. And that is the basics. If you know those couple of things, I think you're actually in pretty good shape for the exam. If you have a hard time with all of it, memorize one column. Whether it's BIBA or Bell-LaPadula, doesn't really matter. Whichever one makes sense. Pick read or write. Pick that one column, make it make sense. The opposite side on that same picture, from read to write, it flips. So where I've got yes, it's going to turn into no. Where I've got yes, it's going to turn into a no. Where I've got a no, it's going to turn into a yes. And then it's completely opposite. The entire picture is opposite when you flip it over from BIBA to Bell-LaPadula or back. Except, of course, at your own level. You can always work at your own level. Read, write, confidentiality, integrity, your own level. You can always work at that level. So there you go. That's the basics to BIBA and a simple comparison to BIBA and Bell-LaPadula.